And Abram believed. Genesis chapter 15 verses 1 to 12, Zephaniah chapter 3 verses 8 to 20 and Romans chapter 4 verses 1 to 9. Introduction. Dream, believe, survive. This is a famous tagline for one of the iconic Philippine reality shows, Starstruck, where aspirants dream to become an idol. What is the importance of believing? Do you believe in God's word? Why is believing in God so important? In Genesis chapter 15, Adonai Yod-Heh-Vah-Heh came to Abram in a vision to give him two encouraging statements that he should not fear. First, Adonai is his shield. The word shield in Hebrew is magen, means a shield, a protector. Indeed, Adonai is a shield and protector of Abram. Second, Adonai is his great reward. What does it mean? Before I answer it, I would like to discuss first the two questions of Abram and how did Adonai respond. First question, he asked, "What will you give me, seeing I go childless?" Adonai said to him, "A child from his own body will be born and be his heir." Then he brought Abram outside to look toward heaven and count the stars. Abram will have many descendants which will be very hard to count. Second question Abram asked, "How shall I know that I will inherit it? This is about the land." In response, Adonai assured his covenant with Abram through a ceremony. And Abram believed. He brought animals to Adonai and cut them in two down the middle, which means this could happen also to the parties if they broke the covenant. When the sun was going down, Abram fell into a deep sleep. Then only Adonai passed between the animal pieces, which means it was only one party. Abram's part was to sleep, to believe. The fulfillment of this covenant rests on the faithfulness of Adonai, and that's the exceedingly great reward of Abram, having an Adonai who is faithful to his promises. Also, his great reward is Yeshua. Galatians chapter 3 verse 16 says, "Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made." He does not say, "and to seeds, as of many, but as of one, and to your seed, who is Yeshua." Abram believed and it was counted to him as righteousness. Chapter 15 verse 6. In Haftarah, Zephaniah encouraged Israel that Adonai will restore them and they can rejoice because he will take away her judgments and he will cast out her enemy. Verse 15. This is a proof that Adonai will judge the nations who oppress his people. Another reason to rejoice is Yeshua the King of Israel will be in their midst, verses 15b to 17, so they should not fear, their mighty one will save them. In verses 18 to 20, Zephaniah also guaranteed Israel 5 things that Adonai remains faithful to them. First, Adonai will gather those who are sorrowful over the appointed assembly. Maybe while in exile, they can't celebrate the Moedim festivals. Second, Adonai will deal all who afflict them. Third, he will save them. Fourth, he will appoint them for praise and fame. Fifth, he will bring them back. Israel would be gathered back to her land. In Apostolic, Apostle Paul modeled Abraham as a proof of justification by faith alone. According to Paul, Abraham has something to boast if he was justified by works. Paul used Genesis chapter 15 where Adonai had conversation with Abraham. In verse 6, Paul mentioned David as for him, he is another man who attained not because of performance, but because of faith. After David committed adultery with Bathsheba and murdered her husband, he openly confessed his sin and turned from it. The connection of our parasha is about God's assurance in fulfilling his word. In Torah, Adonai assured to Abram that he will be his shield and great reward. In Haftarah, through prophet Zephaniah, Adonai assured his people that Yeshua the King of Israel will be in their midst to save them. In Apostolic, through the teaching of Paul, Adonai gave an assurance that salvation is by faith like Abraham, so no one can boast. Back to my introduction. Abraham is the best example of believing in the words and promises of Adonai Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. We also need to believe that Adonai can do the impossible and nothing is hard for him. When we believe in Adonai, we will receive the promises that he has for us. Shabbat Shalom.